Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode in season four of the Top Cyber Pro podcast. I'm founder and CEO Jim West, and I have a guest. Now, we're down to our last few episodes of this season, and we've had a great season so far, and we're closing out very strong. And we have a great guest to talk about. I know a lot of folks get tired of hearing about AI in conferences and events, and I've said it more than once earlier in the season. But you know what? This is a very interesting guest because he's actually certified. He is an expert. It's not like he's, a salesperson, marketing person that's got AIs all up in their titles. This guy is legit, and I'm looking forward to having a great discussion. So we have Mr. Shea Brown. Welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
So you've got a business that you've had for several years now called Babel. So can you maybe tell us about what is the mission of Babel and what is it trying, what are the problems it's trying to solve for society and businesses and everybody?
Yeah, so Babel AI is an AI audit and assurance firm. We were founded in 2018, and the overall mission of the company is to prioritize human flourishing in the age of AI. That's a pretty broad kind of mission statement, but the way in which we are trying to do that is to ensure through auditing and assurance of AI systems that these systems are tested, deployed, developed, and sort of certified in ways that are going to make sure that they do prioritize human flourishing. So, making sure they're not going to infringe on people's rights, that they're going to function properly, they're not going to give rise to any business risk for businesses that use AI. And so that's the motivation. And I came from a weird background. I was an astrophysicist, a professor of astrophysics prior to this. But I used a lot of AI in my everyday work, and I just wanted to be part of this sort of new wave. And in 2018, it wasn't quite as big as it is now,
Mhm.
but I found AI auditing was something to just fit my brain really well, a sort of scientific way of thinking, and I've been excited ever since then.
So I've had a few conversations with a couple of doctors from MITRE regarding AI, and one of the big prevailing topics, and I don't know if that's been about a year now that I've had these conversations regarding ethics in AI and how we're already seeing different regions, countries, and organizations starting to kind of go their own direction, that we can't get a general concurrence about how to approach developing these AI systems and what kind of ethics or models that we put in for their decision making, thought processes. What are some of your insights into that? Do you still see it? Again, I had these conversations more than a year ago, so I don't know if it's still the same case, or are we having people and groups and organizations kind of come to the table and let's kind of come up with some common ground rules?
Yeah, I mean, in general, when I first started, AI ethics was sort of the title that this kind of work was fell under. And I think we're seeing now more, um, people considering it responsible AI or AI governance or something. Something that's a little more agnostic to any particular kind of philosophy around or a sort of cultural ethics or something. And I think there is more agreement now on sort of the set of things you would need to be doing to make sure the AI is going to be responsible and to be able to govern it correctly. And there are more kind of mature standards now. Things like ISO 42001, which is an AI management system standard, didn't exist until recently. I mean, it was in the works for a long time. The EU AI Act, which is a regulation, uh, which requires things that are very similar to 42001. That's now in force, or almost in force totally, but it's a little bit in force now. And those sort of things and there are lots of new laws coming out that look all very similar, asking for the same kind of things. So we're starting to converge. I think some of the details are still up in the air, but generally we understand the kinds of things you need to do.
Okay. Now, what's interesting, since you're a certified auditor for AI systems, could you take us maybe to like a high level perspective of what does that look like when you are going to, because when we think of auditor, we think of someone with a clipboard with some checklists, they got some questions and things to ask and check off the list, or like a security controls assessor that's trying to measure the context of a system and what it does and doesn't do. What does that look like? Doing an AI system, because again, it's we're dealing with like lots of code. We're dealing with a system that's not like a traditional system that people an auditor would deal with.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it will be very familiar to those in your audience who are familiar with IT or cybersecurity auditing or management system auditing. So there are different kinds of people use the term very differently. So
Hmm.
it used to be in the when they talk about AI auditing, they're really talking about people who more like something like a penetration tester or somebody who's coming in and really actively interrogating a system, an AI system, to try to uncover some risk, right?
Hmm.
Now, and that still exists. That's still a concept. People still attach the word AI auditor to that, even though it's a very new term still. But there's also, because there are some standards out there, there are and laws that require some of these things. There is sort of more of the traditional style attestation type auditing. So more of the clipboard,
Hmm.
more of the interviewing, more of the looking at controls and making sure that people are implementing controls in the right way. The only difference here is that AI systems are just a new animal. They have some features that are different than typical IT systems, and the auditors have to be aware of how what those differences are. And some of the controls and some of the testing, like the real substantive testing, has to happen in a slightly different way. And how you interpret those tests are going to be slightly different because of the nature of the system.
Wow. And you've been doing this for quite some time. Obviously, like eight, almost a decade. You're approaching a decade here in a few years with your business Babel, and you've been, in the trenches with this and on rather the front lines. Um, what would you say if someone's just tuned in right now saying, because sometimes it appears there's so many rapid advancements with AI. A few years ago they were doing like, deep fakes with like Tupac Shakur's likeness or Elvis singing a modern song. So it was like voice replication stuff. It was stuff where it could generate, whole college theses. And of course, a lot of students out there heavily use the generative part of AI and ChatGPT and other systems and the like. But from your perspective, and you've been doing this for a while, are we still in an infancy? Like, because to me, as a cyber professional, I still look at this as great and as nice as the nice and shinies are, like generating music, generating context and intellectual property, I guess, in a way. I still think because we still got to get more laws on the books, especially when we start getting into like the arts and the copyrights and trademarks and what is intellectual property or not. That's another discussion maybe. But when it comes to just the usage of AI for businesses, let's keep it kind of on the rails there. Are we still in an infancy? Is it the baby just still crawling, or is the baby got up on his feet and kind of cruising from coffee table to couch, or are we walking, from your perspective for AI?
Yeah, so I guess if we use the sort of crawl, walk, run analogy, I would say we are, going from the crawl to walking stage right now. But the timescales over which we're moving through the stages is progressing really rapidly. And
Yes.
so a lot of businesses are almost, I mean, there's probably you'll have a hard time finding businesses now where AI is not being used in some way, even if it's sort of unofficial shadow usage of ChatGPT uh, or other kind of generative AI at the very least.
Hmm.
But many businesses are trying to really systematize that and trying to get business value out of it. I
Yeah.
think the reason we're still in that in between walking, crawling to walking phase is because there's not a ton of big success stories where it's like a huge business value
Yep.
coming from AI. It's like pilot projects. They see some, it's harder than most people think to solve some of those problems, but it's becoming easier and there's just a huge amount of advancement. So I think we'll see going from walking to running will happen faster than a lot of us might guess.
Exponentially faster, yes. There
Yeah.
was a lot of early adopters about a year and a half ago. There was like a company in India that got rid of its call center personnel and tried to leverage an AI to run that function. And other businesses that were looking at either as a way to maybe reduce certain departments because their thought was that AI was a 30 or 40x enabler where one person can do the work of 30 people. And like you said, these projects, some have failed. There's not a lot of success stories, which is a great statement. I'm glad you made it there. So a lot of people are kind of hitting some pitfalls and making some missteps because maybe they did go all in and now they're having to kind of walk back some of their initiatives or things that they thought that they could run with. Um, With that all being said, though, what do you think when someone like there's a former Google exec, Mo Gadot, he's made the rounds on social media with a lot of clips of him talking about AI, and one of his most profound statements was about AI and the IQ of AI, that it was approaching, I think it was the Einstein level, which was about 150, 155 IQ. So his statement was that the current version, and this was about a year ago now, he made the statement that AI was approaching an Einstein level of IQ, and that he believes in the next, I think it was 8 to 10 years, it would have a 1500 plus IQ. What do you think in terms of that statement when we talk about we're walking, starting to walk right now, and then how exponentially we're going to be running before we know it? How do you feel about a statement like that when it comes to like trying to gauge an IQ and how smart a system is when it has ingested all the information of all history and all time? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not a huge fan of using the IQ type language to because I feel like you can have a super smart computational person who can just crunch numbers in their head, savant level of ability. But sometimes those people have a really hard time navigating the world. And we are still, at the end of the day, a world of humans. And I think that um, we are going to have to, I think the big challenge here is making it well-rounded, it meaning AI, and well-rounded and be able to navigate and generalize across all sorts of different kind of capabilities, including sort of social interactions, the way they communicate. Uh, and so I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and people are doing the work. It's not so, like I think there in some domains it's already outpaced any human,
Mhm.
obviously. Just in terms of speed, just in terms of computation, the ability to draw inferences from disparate data sources. But they have severe limitations in other areas. And so it's going to be much more about rounding out that process. And I think it won't take that long for it to happen. I think that we are on an inflection point right now where it's going to be a few years only. It's not going to be, we're going to have, just really superhuman level kind of intelligence in certain areas. And how well it gets adopted is going to depend a lot on the engineering, not just technical engineering, but sort of socio-technical structuring and infrastructure around AI. That's going to be as important as sort of the foundational models, I think, for the success of these systems.
Now, I'm going to ask a question that I know you probably get asked all the time, and it's probably one of your top questions you hate being asked, because I know there's certain questions I get asked and that I absolutely hate. But I'm going to ask it because people watching is usually the most common question people ask. Is my job industry or my job going to be safe in the next few years from AI? Because everybody's got this idea that AI is going to just replace all the jobs out there. So, what would you say to an individual who's like, is my job safe?
Yeah, I think it might depend a little bit on what job you have. Um, I think they're like it's tough in my community meaning like the sort of responsible AI community, and the AI auditing community is so tiny that it's we can barely call it a community. So I'm talking about globally, people who are talking about the risks, the safety of AI, the dangers of AI. So being a little bit more cautious. They tend to, I think, under appreciate the impact because they'll be like, oh, it's never going to reach, it may never reach general intelligence.
General intelligence,
It's
yeah.
not going to really impact jobs. Look how bad it's doing here and there. And I think there's a lot of cases where it does feel like there's a significant way to go. But I am one of the people who thinks that there will be significant impact. And it basically it's going to be any kind of like analyst sort of job. So I think, but every single job that's out there right now, there will be some people who will be safe and some who won't. And I think the difference between those people are the ones who develop just really good, can learn quickly. So they learn to use AI tools and they have subject matter expertise, which would be difficult to replicate. So that are not just, it's like where experience matters, not just knowledge,
Hmm.
you know? And so that's a problem for entry level jobs. And then also people who develop a good filter. So you can generate a ton of content, and AI is very good at that.
Hmm.
But the filtering process, people who can like boil something down to like, here are the fundamental things that are germane for this question that we're trying to answer or this problem we're trying to solve. People who can are good at filtering, they're the ones who are going to succeed because everybody else will just like, here's what ChatGPT gave me with no filter, and their boss is quickly going to realize, why don't I just ask ChatGPT? Where somebody else who's like, well, I can bring these different sources together, I can filter out what's relevant for us and give you just what you need. That's valuable. And I
Yes.
think so. That's my sort of general feeling on this is it's going to depend on who you are and exactly at what level and what industry you're in.
Absolutely love your response. And I usually, when I respond to folks, I say it's all about context. And that when you mention experience, experience is the context by which you can insert that experience into whatever the situation or craft the information that's needed for that particular situation you're dealing with. And so until, general intelligence comes about where it can, have more context and more self-thought, if you will, we're not in trouble completely yet. So thank you for sharing that insight and perspective. You are a fellow and a certified auditor for an organization called For Humanity. So could you tell us a little bit about what For Humanity is, what they do, and how can people become a part of it if it's possible?
Yeah, so for humanity, it's been around a long time, so they predate even Babel in terms of being thinking about audit in this space. And I met the executive director Ryan Carrier a long time ago, like in an IEEE working group. And but For Humanity is a is a nonprofit, crowdsourced sort of organization, very international. A lot of people from lots of different countries, a lot of different specialties. People come from cybersecurity, from risk, from law, from AI, to finance, all over.
Mhm.
And the basic goal of that organization is to come up with criteria for independent audit of AI systems. So, have standards to come up with standards around different regulations, around different use cases, and that sort of thing. And so it's open to join. So people can just, it's free. You can just go to forhumanity.center, I think is the email address, but maybe you can link it below.
Yes, I'll definitely put
Um,
the link
y-
below. Yeah.
yeah, and you can just sign up and participate, and so you can participate in a number of different working groups. And if you want to actually audit those systems, under their scheme, so it's similar to like um, they have education and certification for auditing of a particular scheme. So they have a scheme around GDPR and AI. They have a scheme around the
Nice.
EU Act.
I'll have
They're
to
coming
check
out with
that
one
out.
around cybersecurity. And so you can get certified under their schemes to audit against those. And
Wow.
there's another organization too that was just founded called the International Association for Algorithmic Auditors. So it's the IAAA.
Okay.
And I'm one of the co-founders, but there's quite a few people in there. But that's like the professional society. I mean, there's going to be more. I'm sure there's
Yes.
probably, I think there are other ones as well. ISACA is doing things around this as well. But the IAAA is like a professional society for AI auditors, and they provide resources and training and things like that. And so I think there's tons of opportunity, and cybersecurity professionals in particular are really well suited for transitioning into this new industry, which who knows where it's going to go, but I think AI systems are going to be very ubiquitous, and auditing is not going away as a
No,
concept.
not never going away. So Shay just put it right there for you. This is a huge opportunity because AI is not going away. So for folks that think I'm going to ignore this, it's just a fad, it's a craze, it's going to go away. It's not going away. And because it's not going away, it behooves you to check these links I'm going to put down below. So Shay's going to set me up with the links for both nonprofit organizations. But if it's a cost of free and it only takes your time to join some discussions, maybe join on some calls and meetings and read the free documentation, if there's free training, free, free, free. The cost of free is just, it only costs your time and interest to jump in the pool because right now there's not a lot of folks in that community. I mean, there's folks globally in the community, but overall it's still a small and growing community that you can get on, I would say, almost a ground floor with experts like Shea and others around the world that are participating in this, sharing knowledge, having the discussions, doing the work now for the future. And you could be part of that wave. So it behooves you to check these links below, check out these great organizations that are, again, putting out information, collaborating. These are the discussions and the work that needs to be done for the future of AI. And I'm glad, Shay, that you're part of that and on the forefront of that. I just want to get back to Babel just for just another question I have. What is your dream and goal for Babel? If you had to say, hey, this is my big dream for Babel, what does that look like? Whether it's
Yeah,
a
so
year, 5 years, 10 years, but down the road, what is that destination that you see your vision and your dream for Babel?
so basically what I would like Babel to be is sort of any place where AI is intersecting with people in very important ways. So that's safety critical areas. So it could be autonomous vehicles, smart cities, things like this,
Yeah.
hiring algorithms, anywhere where either safety or fundamental rights are in danger. I want Babel to be the company that audits those systems. And and to protect humans. And I think that's my goal. And there's tons of different ways this could happen in the ecosystem. People are working on platforms to have like to automate things. People have companies developing software to make testing easier. People are working on education companies, which we do. We also have education as well, to teach people how to do various things. But I think the niche that I see Babel in is that most of us are academics, most of us have PhDs. We are very keen on rigor and that's just super high quality. And so we want to be doing that cutting edge kind of research and then and working on the most cutting edge, dangerous sort of AI, and then disseminating some of those best practices out to the rest of the industry so people can go do the audits and go do the education and do the internal work. That's kind of my vision. I think that's the niche that I see Babel filling.
Well, I love that. I love that at its core, it's about serving humanity and taking care of the people. And so I love that Babel. That's your main focus at heart. So thank you for looking out for humanity. Um, my next question is one of my most favorite questions I ask every guest. And I know you mentioned that your career didn't always wasn't just technology and AI. It was, I think you said astrophysics. So when you made the decision to go into the sciences, let's just keep it broad because it's all this is under the sciences umbrella. If we were to go back in time to a younger version of yourself that said, "Hey, I want my life to be focused on the sciences," is there a story there that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely came at it in a very weird, like my high school, I failed most of my classes in high school. Like I was definitely not interested in academics at all. And finished high school, kind of bottom of my class, worked as a lumberjack for like 4 years after
Interesting.
high school. I
What
grew up
what
in
part of
Maine.
the world was you lumberjacking, if you don't mind me
I
asking?
was in Maine, so it was,
Hey,
lots of
the
woods up there.
Northeast. Okay.
Um, yep, Northeast. And then I read this book. I almost cut my leg off with a chainsaw, or at least I had an accident,
Uh-huh.
and injured myself. And so I was like, oh, I need to do something different. And I had picked up this book called Six
Sorry to
Easy
laugh,
Pieces.
but that's kind of funny. You almost chop your leg off, like, okay, I got to do something different. I mean,
Yeah,
one moment
I
in
need
life.
to, yeah, exactly. I need to do something else with my life that's not with a, very sharp instrument.
Mhm.
And got this book called Six Easy Pieces by Richard Feynman. And it was just these six little lectures about physics for like high level physics.
Mhm.
And I just fell in love with science from that
Just
book.
clicked.
And so yeah, it just clicked and I enrolled at my local university to do that and I never turned back. But it was yeah, it came through it in a kind of weird way, but finally got there.
It took a chainsaw accident, and the world is a better place now that Shay made the decision to go into sciences. So again, thank you for making that decision. And I guess we need to thank the chainsaw for one, not cutting off your leg, and two, making that moment, that kind of moment of crisis of conscience occur for you. Obviously, in everybody's journey in their career, there's leaders, there's rock stars, there's people that inspire and motivate us. There could be managers, colleagues that have helped us along the way, whether through mentorship, supporting us. Is there any folks that you would like? I call this I like to use the term shine a light on their names as paying an homage to those that have either mentored you, provided guidance, or even just people in the industry that you looked up to said, "Hey, man, this was my level 99 person I looked up to." And yeah, it's just kind of that's what the question's for, is just to kind of pay homage to some
Yep.
folks that have been important in your life.
Yeah. So I mean, I can think of one. I mean, there's obviously a lot. I can
Hmm.
think of one that is definitely my PhD advisor, Larry Rudnick. So Professor Rudnick is at the University of Minnesota. You know, I think the way I think now, which in terms of the way I view interrogating data, the way I view the world in terms of skepticism, scientific method, even though I'd already got a master's degree before I even went to my PhD, all of that sort of most of the most important framing came from having him as my advisor because
Nice.
he was just one of those people that would like, you couldn't just say something like, "Oh, look at this data. Oh, that data point was a little higher than the other one." And he would just immediately be like, "Why? Why do you say that? Tell me why. What's the evidence?" And it was very kind of, stressful at first to deal with a person who's constantly challenging you, but that has shaped the way I think about things, and that I think was a huge reason why I've succeeded after that, because that's a way of thinking that not everybody has and not everybody practices and trains into themselves. And I think that's what we demand of our auditors working at our company. And I think Larry Rudnick is for sure the one who formed my kind of current mental model of the world more than anybody else.
Wow, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Um, this is a speed round that I like to do with my podcast guests. And if you'd humor me, I'm just going to ask you just a couple rapid fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just for levity, a little break from all the technical discussions we've been having. So if you're ready, I'm going to fire away. All right,
All right,
this first one splits the room. I'm going to just warn you right now. With all IT cyber professionals, they're either one or the other. So are you Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, I mean, maybe it's because I just watched the Andor series, but I really like Cassian.
Cassian. Okay.
But I mean, I know he's not sort of the original,
Of the film
but
trilogies, which is your trilogy?
oh, I mean, I like the first one.
The
I think
original.
the first one, yeah, the original,
The
yeah.
original. Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No,
Hot dog's not a sandwich. Cake or pie?
pie.
What kind of pie?
I'd say cherry, actually.
Cherry pie, hot or cold cherry pie?
Hot.
Okay. What has been your most favorite book of all time that you've read, and what's the last book you've read?
So my favorite probably would be Cosmos by Carl Sagan.
Nice.
Um, and then the most recent one probably was Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark.
Okay. If you can give me the link to that last one, I'd definitely put it in, and also Cosmos from Amazon. I'll put that in the description below. Save you folks watching right now the pause in the Google search. It'll be in the description below. For folks that I know you kind of already mentioned the two different organizations, but for folks that want to get more information about whether the work that Babbel does, and obviously we can put Babbel's links and socials in the description below. But what would be a good either YouTube channel you'd recommend, another website that might have free courses and training? Where can people go and say, hey, I just want to start at level one learning about this stuff? What would you recommend?
I mean, I would say For Humanity is a great place to start. I think in terms of auditing AI systems, and then the IAAA. So those two are really good. If you're looking to get into the industry, like if you really want to network people who are like in the responsible AI industry, not necessarily just auditing, then All Tech for Human is a community which it's a massive community, but they're the ones who put out the job boards for all the job postings for AI governance and responsible AI. They're a great resource.
Excellent. And if you give me those links, please, Shay, I'll put them down in the description below. Um, I know a lot of us have demanding day jobs, but a lot of people carve out time for charities, nonprofits, volunteer work, and just just things that are near and dear to our heart, our causes and anything like that. So are they any charities, nonprofits, volunteer work of that nature, nonprofit that is near and dear to your heart, or just simply you'd like to shine a light on to and we'll put the links for that organization in the description below.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one of my favorite ones is, what is it called? I think it's HRC. I'm now forgetting my brain is not working, but it's like a sort of refugee rights
Okay.
um organization, and I think they do a lot. Yeah, we're just getting so many refugees from conflicts and
Yes.
climate and things like that. So, they're a good organization that I'm always my go-to if I want to donate.
Okay. And if you could find that link, and we'll put that in the description below. And folks, if you got a moment, pause this video, check out that link, see the great work this organization is doing for refugees around the world. And again, thank you, Shay, for shining a light on that organization for us. We're pretty much wrapped up now. I know we could talk forever, and I want to respect your time. But at this moment, this is where I give all my guests the final word. So whatever you'd like to speak about, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I think my final word would be a pitch for getting into this field, because looking to the future, if you think about how AI systems are going to be used and the world in which, decisions about everything is going to be sort of mediated or made by AI systems, some of the last human jobs are going to be those people, and I would put cybersecurity also in this bucket, are going to be the people who are shepherding those systems, who are governing those systems. And so I think, you know, that's a good reason to start getting into the fields like cybersecurity with an AI frame, or AI auditing or assurance, because I think though that's not going away. People need to manage those systems in a real way. And so if you want to future-proof your sort of career, I think that's a great place to start.
Well, Shay, thank you so much for all that insight and wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for your time. I know it's very demanding, running your business, doing all the other work that you do in research and study. And thank you for not chopping your leg off with that chainsaw and having that decision point to get into the sciences and eventually be where you are today because we need you. And thankfully, you're looking out for humanity. And again, Babel for Humanity and all these other organizations that are in the description below. Check it out, folks. And thank you so much, Shay.
Thanks for having me.